Afternoon everybody, here's your Australian update on all the stuff happening around Australia this week. We've got extreme heat waves happening over in southern Australia and lots of tropical activity going over in North Queensland, all of northern Australia, and I'll give you a few pointers on where we may see a few storms in southeast Queensland next week. Let's go right onto this heat. As you can see, we've got 48 degree areas now. As you can see, 48 degrees reported in Ivanhoe, and that does get further out into the Thargomindah state. Thargomindah is 47 degrees as expected. It may climb throughout the next hour, but of course that will start going down. But the main thing to this heat wave will be the temperatures at night. Just as you can see, 1 a.m. we've got 37, 38, hitting 40 degrees, and that's why this is considered extreme heat wave. So if we've got 40 degrees, that will continue over the next few days. I'll play this forecast through to show you how hot it's actually going to be. You can see tomorrow, basically the same repeat, 48, potentially 49 degrees in a few hours around Cooper Pedy. But yeah, you can see 47, touching 49 in a few places. Be a very hot one the next week. So I'll play this forecast through until Sunday. So it continues throughout Friday, as you can see, touching 48 degrees. But Victoria will get a bit of a break due to some southerlies around that will they'll keep things a bit cooler and give them a bit more of a break. So along this area here, we'll get a bit more of a break due to the southerlies. They'll go back down into the high to low 30s, so a bit of a break on Sunday for Victoria until we may see a bit of heat returning later this month. But still, that's very long range, so I should probably focus on these things. But I'll play the heat forward. We still got some heat out till Tuesday the 3rd February northern Queensland, but of course that will start weakening. And the reason why this heat is just going through is because you can see Tropical Cyclone Lorna. I'll draw a map here. There's Lorna there, ex-Tropical Cyclone Lorna, and we've got a big cloud band stretching all along here by that blue circle, and we've got more low pressure around here, and that's just going to squeeze all that heat into the one area. That's why we're seeing all of this heat in southern Australia. And so we've also got this low pressure system which is driving the heat due to those squash zones, and that is why we're getting all this record breaking heat. Now I'll go on to southeast Queensland right now. It's going to be a pretty quiet period, but we've got some storm potential returning on Monday the 2nd of February. I'll play this forecast through. We don't got much in the way of things today and tomorrow. Maybe just a few storms on Friday around the Sunshine Coast, but of course, that won't be much of a threat to southeast Queensland, just a few showers and isolated storms to the north of the Sunshine Coast, mainly around Hervey Bay. And I'll play this forecast through. Not much in the way of things, maybe a few storms on Saturday. Sunday looking quiet, and Monday we've got a few showers coming in and maybe a few storms. If I go onto the Cape forecast, we got a little bit of Cape into the 1.3 thousand kilojoule state in some places. As you can see, 1.3 thousand, pushing 1.5 thousand in some areas around Kilcoy. That won't be great for high-end severe thunderstorms, but we will still see a few isolated storms around the Darling Downs and maybe into the western southeast Queensland area. Still, maybe a day to watch. Is still a little bit far out, but as we know now, it's not going to be much of a great outbreak, maybe just a few isolated storms. And I'll play throughout probably until the 5th, looking pretty quiet, just the average few showers in southeast Queensland for February, maybe a few storms on the 4th and 5th, but that's still a bit too far out to know just yet. And I'll go on to New South Wales right now, and we may be looking at a potential low pressure system development. It starts off as a trough along this dotted line just around here, a low pressure trough, but that is expected to turn into a low pressure system potentially on Saturday the 7th. As you can see, some very heavy rainfall to south of Sydney, like 80 millimeters per 3 hours. So I'll just draw out what's going to happen around here. So we've got this low pressure system just around here, and we've got the inflow winds feeding it. Still, this is very far out in the terms of long range forecast, but it's still a good thing to watch, but it's way too far out now until the 7th of February. That's about 2 weeks almost. Still a thing to keep an eye on, but not much right now as we know just yet. Now let's go fully tropical now. Let's start off with Invest 94P, I think it is. And it is kindly just around here by this, just here. And it is kindly to the east of Vanuatu. It's a very strong system on steroids, pretty much. And it is a pretty good, well, it's not very, well, I would say high end, but it's a bit messy. The low pressure core is a bit too high for it being like a category 2 system, but you can see we've got some very heavy rainfall wrapping around it, and I'll show you what's happening. So you've got this somewhat cyclone low pressure system tropical low thing, and we've got all these inflow winds wrapping around it. So it's basically a high end, mid to high end tropical cyclone category 1. It won't be a threat to the Australian mainland. I'll try and make a track just around here. So that's a low pressure system there. It's going to sort of make a trip like this, and we'll go down to New Zealand. Then we'll eventually die at around this X. It's still a thing to keep an eye on, but as I said, not much of an Australian mainland threat. This will be probably the closest line I would draw for it to reach, and would be around here, which is very far away from the Australian mainland. Now let's go on to another system just around here. Well, not a system, but a potential tropical low in convergence zone activity happening around the Cairns area. So let's go to tomorrow. We've got convergence zone activity likely throughout today into the next week. So I'll draw a pinpoint on what's going to happen. So we've got southeasterly winds pushing around there, and some northeasterly winds pushing around there, creating a squash zone here, which will actually create these convergence zone happening around here. As we said yesterday, I've got a few videos explaining, some people that sent me in a few videos in Cairns this morning. Go onto my page to fully see see the full video. It's pretty good, and we've got water flowing all over in the Edmonton, Cairns area due to torrential storms that were happening yesterday with 100 millimeters in less than an hour. So that's going to be the same threat for the next week, the convergence zone and torrential storm activity. So we may be looking at some widespread rainfall accumulations into the 300 to 350 millimeter mark. It's a big thing to watch over the next few days, so stay safe, Cairns. As I said, we've got torrential storms and convergence zones happening around the Cairns area. It's usually just the normal Cairns every year stuff. So it's not much for you to worry about around Cairns, but still stay safe and of course prepare now. Now let's go on to a potential system that's a low pressure system that's currently around here. It's located around here at the moment. As you can see, this L just around here, that's a low pressure system. It's a very weak low pressure system, and I'll show you where it's actually going to track. So the low pressure system's there, and it's going to, well, sort of squiggle around these areas, and we'll go back into the Gulf of Carpentaria and potentially swing back around, and then we'll eventually go out to the Northern Territory. So if I go on to the rainfall accumulations, we've got some incredible stuff happening over the next few days. As you can see, we've got 1.2, 1.3 thousand. Just remember, this is not going to happen over the 1,000 millimeter mark. More over 1,000 millimeters is pretty crazy but compared to what we've seen, that is still a good risk. As you can see, the coastal areas, the maximum rainfall for coastal areas are around 950 millimeters, but I would more call for a 700, 800 millimeter mark around the Burketon area. So along these areas we'll get the worst of it in the red circle I just draw, and in the blue circle we may be looking at over 950 millimeters. It's a big thing to watch. As I said, 1.3 thousand millimeters, that is a pretty messy and very showery system. But that's not all coming from the system. We've actually got all these shower inflows coming in around the Gulf of Carpentaria due to moisture in the monsoon trough. So there's all these heavy showers and storms piling into this area, adding those rainfall totals up another 500 millimeters. So that's going to be a very big thing to watch over the next few days. And I'll go on to talk about another potential system on the WA coast. Now we will have to go pretty far out for this one. Probably the access model may be able to say it. But yeah, as you can see, we've got a very strong cyclone here, maybe category 2. But this is still pretty far out onto Friday the 6th. It's not fully accurate just yet. As I said, it's not fully locked in, but still it's a big thing to watch. It actually may be a clone of the Gulf of Carpentaria system. So as I said, the Gulf of Carpentaria system around here may swing back into there, and then we'll go out towards there and into this coast. It's going to be a big thing to watch, but as I said, not fully locked in, so it's not going to be the most accurate thing on this video, but still a big thing to keep an eye on. But yeah, that should do it all for me today. If you got any questions or anything you want to put in the comments, please put them in the comment section below and I'll answer them as soon as I can. But as I said, that'll be all out of me for today. Have a great Wednesday and Thursday, but that'll be all out of me for now. Cheers. Goodbye.